the armies. I did not quite follow or understand.
Not a Pax Americana.
India's history of being colonized and fighting for independence shapes its efforts to keep its country together. And being a democratic and diverse nation, it faces several challenges to its national integrity, such as separatist movements, religious conflicts, and cross-border terrorism. However, despite these challenges, India has been successful in maintaining its national unity and territorial integrity. A strong sense of national identity helps the country stand up to pressure from outside sources. And as India continues to grow as a world power, it faces increasing threats from cyberattacks, propaganda, and a formidable alliance of foreign organizations, including civil society, the global media, and liberal elites, that has been working to demonize a widely respected democratically elected leader, Narendra Modi. This alliance seeks to prevent India from becoming a major world power, and its efforts to demonize Modi are part of a broader campaign to weaken India's influence on the global stage. The controversy surrounding the BBC documentary, India, the Modi Question, continues to rage on, over a month after its first episode aired. The documentary has become a major flashpoint in India's polarized political debate, with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar describing it as politics by another means. Jaishankar's comments suggest that the documentary's airing was not accidental, and that it was timed to coincide with the beginning of the political season in London and New York. The documentary has sparked a fierce debate in India, with some accusing the BBC of biased and inaccurate reporting, while others argue that it raises important questions about Modi's leadership and India's future direction. Whatever one's view on the documentary, it is clear that it has become a highly charged political issue, and one that is unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. However, the major concern is how this controversy is being handled domestically, and what effect it will have on the next election. Let us look at some sensitive issues, and how India is dealing with them. The global discourse often portrays India as being threatened by Hindu nationalism, and the same is portrayed in the BBC documentary and George Soros' comments. This view suggests that the policies and actions of the ruling BJP are promoting and exacerbating a Hindu nationalist agenda. They believe this is a threat to India's democratic and secular identity. This view is widely held among global elites, including those who run international publications and civil society organizations, as well as by many old elites in India. However, the BJP and its supporters argue that the portrayal of India as under siege from Hindu nationalism is a misrepresentation of their policies and actions. They contend that the BJP is committed to the idea of a strong, united, and prosperous India, and that its policies and actions are aimed at promoting economic growth, social welfare, and national security. Taking care of complicated social and political issues is hard for a number of reasons, including diversity, historical context, and so on. When there are many different ethnic, cultural, and social groups in a country, it can be hard to find a balance between their needs and wants. And foreign interference can make this task even harder. When a country is subject to external pressure or interference, it can exacerbate existing tensions and make it more difficult for leaders to manage conflicts and build consensus. One of the examples of foreign interference is Pakistan. Leaders and military in Pakistan take pleasure in fomenting violence in India. Moreover, their actions are not confined to Kashmir, but extend to a number of Indian states. And it's not just Pakistan that's trying to meddle in India's domestic affairs. The USA, UK, China, and Turkey are all doing the same thing, but in different ways. The US and UK through civil society, global media, liberal elites, and a well-known organization with the big names. Turkey attempts to influence India's internal politics by using Pakistan. And China by providing support to separatist groups in the northeast region of the country. These groups have been involved in a long-standing conflict, with the Indian government seeking greater autonomy or even independence for their respective states. And if India decides to tackle such problems in its own way, foreign entities come out to criticize it, just as they did when India decided to revoke Jammu and Kashmir's special status. Modi's rise is seen as a sign of the emergence of a new India that is more assertive on the global stage. Modi represents the interests of ordinary people and has displaced the old, entitled elites. The old elites, who have lost their power due to Modi's ascent, are seen as resisting this change, and they are being aided by outsiders who are using the rhetoric of democracy in danger for their own interests. Like the External Affairs Minister, S. Jaishankar said, "When democracy does not yield outcomes you like, you say democracy is in danger." Meaning, the claims of democracy being in danger is used as a rhetorical tactic when people are unhappy with the outcome of democratic processes. India is responding to such statements by declaring that they reflect the will of the people. India is pushing back against such claims and giving a befitting reply to people, and PM Modi's statement that India will never bow to any global power signaled a shift in India's foreign policy away from one of passive submission. In the past, Indian leaders were often reluctant to take on political tensions with foreign powers, and may have struggled to articulate strong justifications for their positions. However, in recent years, India has emerged as a new global player, with a more assertive, confident, and argumentative approach to diplomacy. And this has scared some people, because they don't think India has what it takes to become a global power. They are skeptical that India has the ability to become a global force. In recent years, India's foreign policy has become increasingly assertive as the country strives to impose itself on the global stage. This transition can be seen in several ways, like increased military spending. India is the world's third largest defense spender, after only the United States and China. Diplomatic assertiveness. India used confidence, determination, and firmness in diplomatic negotiations or interactions to protect a nation's interests or to advance its agenda, and using diplomacy to achieve goals without resorting to aggression or conflict. Border disputes. India's border issues with China and Pakistan have been difficult, but the country has managed to stay strong without escalating into war. Strategic partnerships. India forms strategic alliances with countries like the US, Japan, and Australia, in part to counter China's growing influence in the IOR region. India maintains friendly relations with the US and the West, while partnering with Russia. This balancing act has been criticized both domestically and internationally. However, India's foreign policy decisions are influenced by a number of things, such as geopolitical realities, economic concerns, and domestic political concerns. Overall, these developments suggest that foreign entities and wealthy individuals is worried about India's growing strength. Western media, such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, The Economist, the Financial Times, The Guardian, etc., have always been negative about India's policy. International media outlets have made several allegations against the Modi administration, such as human rights violations, press freedom, and criticism of the decision to revoke the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, economic policies, environmental policies. The Indian government and its leaders have responded to these allegations in various ways, depending on the specific issue at hand. The BJP's assertive response to these allegations reflects a growing sense of nationalism and a desire to protect India's interests from external influence. However, this approach has also been criticized by some as being heavy-handed and overly defensive. Some argue that it reflects legitimate concerns about the direction of the country under Modi's leadership. They criticize this approach as being overly defensive and shutting down legitimate debate and dissent. However, the ongoing debate and controversy surrounding the Modi administration may actually benefit the BJP politically, as it plays to Modi's strengths in controlling the narrative and presenting himself as a strong leader. The statement cites the example of the BBC documentary case, which did not reveal any new information, but still generated significant controversy and attention. Overall, the statement suggests that the debate surrounding the Modi administration is a complex issue that involves politics, legal matters, and media narratives. The impact of this controversy on the next election remains to be seen, but it is clear that the issue of foreign interference will be a key theme in the campaign. The BJP will probably attempt to demonstrate that it is the only party that can defend India's interests from threats from outside the country, while the opposition will argue that the government is using this issue to deflect from its own failures and shortcomings. But ultimately, the voters will have to decide which narrative they find more convincing.